films.
What is up, everyone? I'm CBMF Productions, and after nearly a year since the last installment of the series dropped, we are finally back to the Nick Games Retrospective. Today, we'll be traveling back down to the world of Bikini Bottom, as we indulge in a party game featuring all of our favorite characters in the SpongeBob universe, as they fight for a role in the latest Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy special, SpongeBob Lights, Camera, Pants. A very odd game to start this new rephase of this series. But for a revamp of this series, I thought it just wouldn't feel right if I didn't start off with the character that I started the series off with and go back to its roots. This was the first major SpongeBob game that came out after the quote-unquote golden era of SpongeBob ended after the SpongeBob movie came out, and Steven Hillenburg and his investment and his stake in this franchise quickly waned after Nickelodeon just wanted to pump this franchise out till it was dead, despite Hillenburg thought it reached its peak in its natural conclusion with the movie. Now, being early in this new phase of SpongeBob post-Hillenburg, THQ and Nickelodeon were set out to make a new SpongeBob game that was unlike most of the major platformers that we've seen previously for this franchise, deciding on giving SpongeBob and his friends their own party game. Now, this isn't the first time SpongeBob and his friends have been involved in a party game, as they were a part of Nickelodeon Party Blast 3 years earlier, being one of the most criticized Nickelodeon games ever made for its poor design and structure, along with many other mistakes that I won't get into. Now, from the mistakes hopefully learned from that game, THQ and one of its divisions, THQ Studio Australia, named after only the best continent in the world, at least y'all got Crocodile Dundee. This studio is credited specifically for making Nickelodeon and DreamWorks games, some of which I've already covered in the past, were selected to develop the console version of this game. The game was made and released in America and some countries in Europe on October 2005 for the GameCube, PS2, and OG Xbox, with the PC and Game Boy Advance versions also being developed as well, much like every one of these Nick games I've already covered. But there were a couple of ports that were cancelled amidst the development process, such as the DS and the PSP version of this game being cancelled. But since then, some people have theorized, including the amazing channel Cartoon Review, who is also doing his own Nickelodeon retrospective series, that these two cancelled ports were actually developed into a separate game called SpongeBob the Yellow Avenger, that was released around the same time just for the DS and PSP. The reviews and critics were not very glowing, mostly mixed to positive, just kind of getting dumped into the gigantic pile of just schlock license games that were being developed around this time period. And given the fact that there were no solely made SpongeBob party games after this came out, safe is to say this wasn't the biggest success in the world. But now, nearly 17 years later, looking back, does this game hold some special treasures that was not discovered upon its release? Or is this just another generic Mario Party clone? Well, let's get into the game and find out. But before we get into that, let's get into the plots.
Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand.
The game starts off introducing us to a brand new character in the SpongeBob world, famous director Gil Hammerstein, who looks and sounds a lot like Sid from Ice Age.
Yes, sir. I'm aware how important the anniversary special of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy is.
Oh, it's a boy!
That's its tail.
It's a girl!
He is tasked by his superiors to cast some roles in the newest Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy special for their anniversary, even though that's more of the casting director's job and not the actual main director, but whatever. So, the top 4 characters you get to choose to play as or against, consisting of SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Sandy, Mr. Krabs, and Plankton, are all on the docket to be cast in his new special, and have to go through a series of auditions, consisting of mini-games throughout Bikini Bottom, in order to obtain a role in each new area if they achieve the most points. First up is the Krusty Krab, where Bubble Bass of all people is tasked with overseeing the auditions over there, as 4 of the characters have to endure games such as who can flip the most Krabby Patties, receiving and making orders the correct way, and balancing bags on this platform with these trays. Ending with whoever character with the most points obtain the role of Maestro with a whale a cappella in this special where things go very awry. No thanks to Mermaid Man.
I probably shouldn't have eaten all that cheesecake either.
Oh, what have you done this time, Mermaid Man?
Next up is the Goo Lagoon, where Larry the Lobster is overseeing this round, where our characters have to endure going through nets of inflatable pants, try not to crash like the stock market, putting the right colored weights on Larry and Don the Whale, and timing it right to where they can do the most bench presses, not to mention trying to fish out as many things from the shore as possible. After the trials are complete, we get the next segment of the special, consisting of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy breaking the laws of the road after having destroyed the stadium accidentally, ending in a very high pursuit chase of the dynamic duo in their invisible boatmobile, as whoever character won this round is playing the officer chasing them, and they're less than a bike to chase them. But the two get arrested after getting stuck inside Miss Puff's boating school, and the winning character is also playing the sneaky hermits, the main villain of this special, cackling as the plans start to come to fruition for the hermits. Our next set of auditions are being overseen by Miss Puff at our boating school, as the characters have to endure knocking each other off this platform while riding unicycles that Wii Sports Resort were good to perfect, having to do the sickest tricks on some bikes and try not to crash, and finally racing each other on the actual boating course to see who comes out on top. We then cut to our next segment of the special, where Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are in jail trying to get over what happened, as whoever character won this round gets to play the guard that jets into their conversation a little bit. The dynamic duo also stumble across their arch enemies, Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble, on the other side of the cell, as the four of them theorize that an upcoming villain in the ranks, the Sneaky Hermit, is the one that set up our heroes and stole the stadium that the two were at earlier, due to the fact that the Hermit likes to steal buildings, and further proving that theory when it steals the jail where our heroes and villains are at, as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy go out to prove their innocence and stop the Sneaky Hermit. We jump back into the gameplay as we hit the Sand Stadium for our next batch of minigames, as Squilliam of all people is overseeing the event, consisting of auditions such as playing a kiddie version of Guitar Hero, a memorization game where you have to remember Squilliam's notes and getting the timing right, and topping off with a kiddie version of Rock Band. Whoever comes on top gets to play the lookout for the Sneaky Hermit in the next segment of the special, at Goo Lagoon, where somehow Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy have been cleared of their charges, and now the manhunt is on for the Sneaky Hermit.
I think we've got a hermit to catch. We'll start with the beach, cause hermits love the beach.
That was easy.
The dynamic duo spot our lookout on the beach as they hide behind an ice cream stand as the vendor veers them the wrong way from the Sneaky Hermit's lair to the Krusty Krab. As Man Ray and Dirty Bubble also approach the stand, wanting to join forces with the Sneaky Hermit as the lookout gives them the Hermit's secret hideouts. The two arrive to the lair and pitch to the Hermit about teaming up as a supervillain team, agreeing to join forces with them if they help distract the dynamic duo with the captive that is in the potato sack, so the Hermit can continue his plan. As the two villains agree as the Hermit goes off to rob their lairs behind their back. We go back to the gameplay as we set our sights on the chum bucket as Karen heads us around minigames. Consistently our characters constantly having to fix a machine that's in the middle of a meltdown, popping bubbles, for some reason, and charging up as many of these poles as possible. Leading to our next segment of this special, finding Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy the Krusty Krab on the hunt for the Hermits. As the character who wins this round gets to roll the waiter serving our heroes, as Mermaid Man wants a little too much pepper on his patty, looking like he's eating some ashes, like that one woman from My Strange Addiction, as the waiter informs our heroes that spotted something suspicious regarding the Hermit outside near the chum buckets, as our heroes go out to investigate. We then see Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble hold the captive they got from the Hermit inside the chum buckets, and it being the mayor's kid, always being played by the winning player, and forced to run endlessly on the treadmill in this force field of sneakiness, or else it won't get much better for them. Our heroes arrive to stop this torture as our two villains say their speech and run away, until they get double crossed by the Hermit, as the four of them decide to team up and stop the Hermit once for all, while also letting the mayor's kid go, collapsing on the floor just as much as the political and enforcement arms of Bikini Bottom have, due to the Hermit's devious licks. We get back into the game as we head to Jellyfish Fields where Kevin, out of all people, is tasked with giving the next set of auditions to our characters. Man, I didn't expect this game to have so many deep cut references. Our characters have to go through such challenges collecting jellyfish and putting them in this machine that looks like Mr. Krabs designed it just to get that sweet jellyfish jelly. There's bungee jumping to collect jellyfish, and topping it off is enslaving more jellyfish and putting the right colored ones in your team's cage, without being ambushed by King Jelly. We jump back into the intriguing, as Morbius would say, storyline regarding our heroes and villains catching the Hermits, as they go to Jellyfish Fields to find a special hunter, played by whoever character won this round, trying to give tips and tricks to our team to stop the Hermits. But after causing the hunter to lose their prey multiple times to our heroes and villains consistently making loud noises, the hunter promises they will hunt down the Hermit themselves if they just leave them be. We get back into the minigames as we head to jail. Well, that sucks. We go there to do another batch of games hosted by Don the Whale for the role of stunt double for the guard for the final part of the special, consisting of games such as football with seahorses, and I mean real football for all my international viewers watching this, collecting really tiny prisoners and helping them escape via trampolines. How did the prison even allow that in? I have no idea. And mining down rocks for minerals inside. Now this feels like prison. We then go to our final batch of minigames for this story, being helmed by Cannonball Jenkins. And the deep cut references just don't stop, do they? Going to downtown Bikini Bottom, hosting minigames such as scraping barnacles with a sea needle, climbing these energized ropes to get to the top of a high rise, and swinging with the partner on these wind up objects to hit as many pegs in this building as possible. Whoever wins this round gets the role of the stump double, and whoever gets the most points over the course of this game is awarded the role of the Sneaky Hermits. We jump back into the final section of the special, as our heroes and villains are in downtown Bikini Bottom, as the invisible boatmobile, which is revealed to be a Barbie-like convertible, has been stolen by the Hermits, who shows his face to our heroes for the first time. After stealing the entirety of downtown and putting it on its back, wanting to create the best home ever, after seeing earlier that this villain has some serious daddy issues,
Why did you leave me?
and mommy issues too, I'm not gonna discriminate, our heroes and villains square up against the Hermits, who plans to take the lost building still standing in Bikini Bottom, the Sea Needle, but it's locked from the highest point, so the Hermit has to go up the building to snag it, while our heroes try to knock the Hermit off to no avail. That is until our heroes remember what the hunter said earlier about knocking the Hermit on his back, as Mermaid Man uses his old reliable pepper to make the Hermit sneeze, and it causes the Hermit to fall backwards, and knock all the buildings back into place, as the hermit disappears and we never hear from it again, as the day is saved, our villains go back to villainry, and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy go back to the Stan Stadium to watch a whale perform where it was left off, as another day has been saved for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, as the story ends, and that's a wrap.
Ocean Man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip.
The biggest thing I can say about this game off the cuff is that this game feels like it was made by fans of the show, or at least by people that were very knowledgeable about the show. The amount of characters, references, callback, character interactions, all the DNA that's present in a Golden Era SpongeBob episode is very much present in this game's storyline. It may not reach the heightness of the clever writing of the early seasons, but very much like the first couple seasons post the SpongeBob movie, it does still feel like classic SpongeBob, and the nostalgia blanket for this game does make me warm up to the game just slightly. I actually enjoy the main storyline of all these characters having to fight to get various roles in this new Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy special, and by the end, you actually do get to see the full special play out, which I really appreciate. Especially since these cutscenes are molded by the characters that actually won the rounds that you play as, so it does make the game have more substance to it in my opinion, than if they just had a random assortment of minigames and very little plots. Kinda what Nickelodeon and THQ did earlier with Nickelodeon Party Blast. And the fact that developers and writers did actually put the extra mile and the extra effort in to put an actual storyline to this game, versus just having a bare bones plot and very little storyline, where most party games would bet to get that type of storyline, and these writers actually putting meat on this game's bones, was quite refreshing to see. The voice acting is all pretty solid here. All of our returning cast members, which is like 99% of the cast here, all do their voices justice. Even getting Clancy Brown to reprise his role as Mr. Krabs for this game, which famously he rarely even does. And even the guy that voices Mermaid Man in this game, despite clearly not being the late Ernest Borgnine, is 1,000 times better than the guy that voiced him in Battle for Bikini Bottom. The atmosphere screams SpongeBob, and the way the entire game is drenched in this world, and really has fun with bringing so many of the past minor characters to do cameos in here, with their original voice actors too, just layers this game on with so much charm. There are some minigames in here that I did have fun with. The main one for me was the one minigame near the end, where you have to scale this building with a partner, and have as many rods as you can. I thought was quite unique. I enjoyed the minigames where it was every sea creature for themselves, and you have to physically fight to get to the top spot, and there are some memorization and strategy games in here that I did have a decent ball with as well. The game also has a lot of features outside the main game. The game also has a lot of features outside the main story that you do have a chance to explore and do more than just a basic storyline for this adventure. From a presentation standpoint, the game didn't blow the doors off from other licensed games around this time, but the game does look decent for what these developers have to work with. Decent models, good backgrounds, very fluid movements. The music is decent as to the Hawaiian vibe that SpongeBob has always been a part of, and overall, it's far from the worst party game I've ever played, especially regarding the dozens and dozens of Mario Party clones. But on the same token, it's far from the best as well.
Ocean Man, Princess of the Sandman and bite by the sand.
This game, for how much it gets right, there are some major fundamental issues that does taint this game from being one of the more celebrated SpongeBob games of this era and one of the better licensed games out there. The biggest one that I just need to get off my chest is that for a party game, it just isn't that good. While there are some minigames I did have a good time with, for all 30 of these minigames, every single one of them overstays their welcome by at least a minute or two. Kinda like that one party guest at your house that just won't leave and it's like 4 AM. Every single minigame is like that. They start off pretty solid, and then it just repeats for like a solid 4 or 5 minutes. And despite you can feel how much passion was put into the story side of things, it does feel like this game does pad out its runtime, with extending all these minigames, even to the point where the timer feels like it's in slow-mo. And each minigame has this annoying tendency to stop the pace every single minute, to slightly change up the character setting, but it's not significant enough to where it puts the brakes on the pace in the minigames. And despite I do enjoy the SpongeBob atmosphere these minigames give off, throughout the experience of playing this game, apart from a couple that I talked about in the positive section, a lot of them just felt like knocks from Mario Party and Wii Sports Resort, which I know came out a few years after this game was released, but still I played that first, I just can't get it out of my consciousness. It just wasn't that fun playing these minigames. And just to get it out there, I did play this game by myself because, I mean, I'm in my 20s and I probably wouldn't be able to get my friends to play the SpongeBob game unless alcohol was involved. So playing the game with a bunch of AIs really did make the game feel hollow, and although that might be an unfair point to review it as, I think the game fundamentally should work playing by yourself. If the game is already fun, and for the most part, it wasn't. Another small negative I do have on this game is that the writing isn't very top tier. While there are certainly a lot of highlights from the dialogue, and I'm glad the characters acted consistently and there weren't any cringe-inducing moments throughout the game, this does feel like a season 4 or 5 era SpongeBob episode, where some of the magic is still there, but you can feel that it's not the same without Steven Hillenburg and a good chunk of his writing team present. Not like every SpongeBob game during Hillenburg's run was amazing, but there was a certain lightning in a bottle feel to those games. That felt like Hillenburg was at least on the phone while this game was being developed. And this game just doesn't have that feel to it. And with this new character being introduced in Gil Hammerstein, he was just annoying, to be frank. I couldn't stop thinking of Sid from Ice Age whenever I saw him and heard him, and his cutscenes always annoyed me and disrupted my enjoyment of the game. Even when we got to see these old characters like Kevin and Bubble Bass appear, for some reason it was incredibly choppy and distracting. Imagine if my whole review was like this. And as a whole, for this game having those big fundamental issues and just not being that fun to play, I do kind of have to throw it in the same line of like Sonic Shuffle and Crash Bash. A neat novelty, but nothing to write home about sadly.
Soaking up the thirst of the land, ocean man.
Overall, SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants is a game that has the right ingredients to make a really fun SpongeBob game, but due to some huge design flaws and poor choices, just makes this an okay experience amongst a sea of SpongeBob gaming titles. See what I did there? But being serious, the writing for this game is pretty solid, and does make it worth sitting through these mini games to watch a pretty good episode of SpongeBob by the end for a later season, I should say. The voice acting is top notch, the game looks pretty decently, the main games at first are actually pretty enjoyable. I did enjoy the fact that this game had more meat on its bones because the creatives did have more passion for this property, it seems like, but the main games themselves and the entire pacing of this game just drags throughout the entire experience. And when that's the main crux of what the game's about, that's a problem. It wasn't just a game that, unless I'm adamant to get my friends together and play, it's not a game really to pick up over something like Battle for Bikini Bottom or the movie game. It's by far not the worst SpongeBob game I've covered on this series or ever played, but as far as being one of the better SpongeBob games, and that's a shame because it had the potential to be. I give SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants a C+, a 6.5 out of 10, and I don't know, it depends on your taste recommendation. So that's SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants. What do you guys think about it? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. I'm CBMF Productions, and I'll see you on the next level.